So, what happens when an entire people's history is written on a canvas that gets systematically destroyed? Today, we're going to dive into ledger art, a powerful story of how a tradition born from a crisis became this living chronicle of resilience, all on the pages of its oppressors. At its very heart, this is a story about a canvas. For generations, the history of the Plains people was written on buffalo hide. But when that canvas was almost completely erased, they found a new one in the most unlikely of places, the accounting ledgers of traders and soldiers. And this wasn't just, a simple switch in materials. No, this was a profound act of cultural survival. To really get why this jump to paper was so radical, we've got to go back a bit. We need to understand the vibrant tradition that was painted on hide and the historical catastrophe that threatened to silence it forever. For generations, Plains men painted their histories on buffalo hides. Now, these weren't just decorations. Think of them more like public resumes. They were visual records of a warrior's bravery, a hunter's success, or a powerful spiritual vision. Each hide told a story and really solidified a man's status within his community. But then, in the mid-19th century, this entire way of life came under attack. The U.S. government's policy of buffalo extermination didn't just take away a food source. It took away the very canvas of their history. At the exact same time, traders and soldiers were bringing in new materials, and native peoples were being forced onto reservations. Their world was shrinking, and their historical record was in real danger of just vanishing completely. But here's the amazing part. Faced with losing literally everything, these artists didn't stop telling their stories. Instead, they performed this incredible act of adaptation, turning the very tools of the new world into instruments for their own cultural preservation. And this right here, this is the core of where ledger art comes from. I mean, just think about the incredible, tragic irony. They took the paper used to count dollars and supplies, the bureaucratic documents of colonization, and they inscribed their own histories, their own values, their own accounts of bravery right on top of those pages. It was an act of immense strategic resilience. Okay, so this artistic evolution, it then gets forged in a crucible, taking a really dramatic turn in one of the most unexpected places you can imagine, a military prison in Florida. So picture this. After the Red River War, 72 warriors were shipped all the way across the country and imprisoned without a trial. Their jailer, a guy named Captain Richard Henry Pratt, saw it as an assimilation experiment. He gave the younger men art supplies, hoping to, civilize them. He had absolutely no idea he was about to spark an artistic revolution. And what happened next reveals this just dramatic shift. Before, the art was all about memory, recalling past battles and hunts. But inside Fort Marion, it suddenly became about immediate observation. The artists started drawing their new reality, the trains they saw, the steamboats, the prison guards. And for the first time ever, they started incorporating landscapes and horizon lines, basically inventing a new visual language to document their strange, unfamiliar world. Artists like Nukoist and Ushedowint became incredibly prolific, chronicling their entire journey in confinement. And here's another huge change that happened. Their jailers encouraged them to sell their drawings to tourists. Think about that. This was the birth of a commercial market for native art created by prisoners of war. So the innovations that just exploded out of Fort Marion, well, they didn't end there. They basically lit a fire that was carried forward by a new generation of artists and, eventually, new institutions that were dedicated to nurturing this art form. Now, a really key figure in this whole transition was an artist named Silverhorn. His own brother, Ohedowint, was one of the Fort Marion artists. Silverhorn absorbed that new style, and he became a teacher himself, passing the torch to a group of young artists who would pretty soon become internationally famous. And when you look at this timeline, the evolution is just astonishingly fast. The art form goes from a prison experiment in 1875 to a huge international exhibition in Prague by 1928. That led to the founding of major art schools like the IAA. In less than 100 years, what started as a survival tactic had become a full-blown, institutionalized artistic movement. And this quote from the Hopi artist Fred Cabote, man, it just perfectly captures what was motivating so many of these artists in these new schools. For students who were taken far from their homes, painting wasn't just some class assignment. It was a way to fight loneliness, a way to connect with their culture, to paint what was in their minds and hearts when they couldn't see it around them. Okay, so this brings us to a really crucial point. Ledger art is not some relic of the past. It is a vibrant, living language that artists are using right now to talk about the world today. But, getting to this point, that required another fight. For decades, many non-native patrons wanted a very specific, romantic, static image of the Indian. In 1958, the artist Oscar Howe powerfully pushed back against this, demanding the right for individual expression, to be an artist first, not just a painter of a prescribed past. And that push for artistic freedom, it completely opened the floodgates. Today's artists have taken the historical ledger form and are using it to address the complex realities of the 21st century, from politics to pop culture and everything in between. And the range of what artists are doing today is just incredible. You've got artists like Julia Ariola creating these fantastic steampunk visions of Native people commanding Victorian airships, a powerful rewriting of history. And then on the other hand, you have artists like Chris Papin using that stark, classic ledger style to make urgent, direct commentary on events like the Dakota Access Pipeline protests. I absolutely love this metaphor from artist Michael Horse. He calls ledger art the blues of Native American expression. It's an art form born from really hard times, from loss and confinement. But it's not about being a victim. It's about resilience, about freedom, and about telling your own story in your own voice. So what started as a record of valor on buffalo hide became a journal of survival on a ledger page, and has now evolved into this vibrant language for modern commentary. It's a powerful testament to an unbreakable spirit. And it really leaves you wondering, what stories will this living language tell tomorrow?